Hello students, welcome back to another chapter of history, chapter 8, devotional paths to the divine. Today we will understand how the Bhakti movement began and gained popularity throughout the Indian subcontinent and why the medieval Bhakti movement and Sufism are together regarded as a cultural landmark in our history. The medieval period in India saw various religious developments. Many religious leaders appeared carrying messages which appealed to the masses. The first movement we will study about here is the Bhakti movement. Intense devotion or love of God is the legacy of the various kinds of Bhakti and Sufi movements that have evolved since the 8th century. Bhakti means personal devotion to one God. The seeds of this idea have existed since the Vedic period. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna states that even the humblest devotee can reach him through simple devotion. Bhakti was a sort of personal relationship between the deity and devotee. It basically signified selfless love for God. There was no requirement for complex rituals. The movement was made popular by the saints who composed devotional hymns in the regional languages. The leaders of the movement came from all classes. The Bhakti movement started in the Tamil region. It spread from there to Karnataka and Maharashtra. It reached North India and Bengal around the 15th century. People performed various kinds of bhakti and rituals of worship or singing bhajans, kirtans, or kawali, or even repeating the name of God in silence. Different groups of people worshipped their own gods and goddesses. The idea that all living things pass through countless cycles of birth and rebirth, performing good deeds and bad, came to be widely accepted. The belief that social privileges came from birth in a noble family or a high caste was the subject of many learned texts. Many people turn to the teaching of the Buddha or the Jainas, according to which it was possible to overcome social differences and break the cycle of rebirth through personal effort. Others felt attracted to the idea of a supreme God who could deliver humans free from such bondage in approached with a devotion or bhakti. This idea advocated in the Bhagavad Gita grew in popularity. God and goddesses as worshipped in different areas came to be identified with Shiva, Vishnu, or Durga. The idea of bhakti became so popular that even Buddhists and Jainas adopted these beliefs. A new kind of bhakti in South India, Nayanars and Alvars. During the period between 7th century to 9th century, bhakti movement emerged and became popular in South India. It was popularized by the Alvars, who are followers of Vishnu, and Nayanars, who are followers of Shiva. They went from place to place composing beautiful poems in praise of their deities. They belonged to different castes, including the untouchables. They preached complete and selfless devotion to Shiva or Vishnu. Nayanars and Alvars were sharply critical of the Buddhists and Jainas and preached ardent love of Shiva and Vishnu as the path of salvation. There are 63 Nayanars who belong to different caste backgrounds such as potters, untouchable workers, peasants, hunters, soldiers, brahmanas, and chiefs. The best known among them were Epar, Sembendar, Sandedar, and Menika Bhasagar. There are two sets of compilations of their songs, Tevaram and Tiruvekakam. There were 12 Alvars who came from equally divergent backgrounds, the best known being Peri Alvar, his daughter Anda, Tondar Dipodi Alvar, and Nam Alvar. Their songs were compiled in the Divya Prabandham. Between the 10th and 12th centuries, the Chola and Pandya kings built elaborate temples, strengthening the links between the Bhakti traditions and temple worship. Hagiographics of the Alvar and Nayanar saints are also composed. These texts are important sources for writing histories of the Bhakti traditions. Hagiographics books about the life of a person that praises them too much. Philosophy and Bhakti. One of the most influential philosophers of India, Sankara or Sankaracharya, was born in Kerala in the 8th century. He was an advocate of Advaita Vedanta, the doctrine of oneness of the individual soul with the Supreme God. He believed that God and his created beings are one and the same. He set up four methods or centers of learning and worship at Jyotirmath in Uttarakhand, Puri in Orissa, Dwarka in Gujarat, and Sringeri in Karnataka. These centers are located in the four corners of India. He taught that Brahman, the only or ultimate reality, was formless and without any attributes. Next one, Ramanuja. Ramanuja was born in Tamil Nadu in the 11th century and was deeply influenced by the Alvars. He argued that the grace of God was more important than knowledge about Him. He stated that the path was open to all and enrolled disciples from all castes. He also tried to link bhakti with the Vedas. According to him, intense devotion to Vishnu was the way to attain salvation. He preached that the Visista Veda philosophy, according to which the individual soul, even when united with the Supreme God, remains distinct. His doctrine influenced the Bhakti tradition in North India. Next topic, Basavanna's Vairasivism. Vairasivism was a movement initiated by Basavanna and his companions Alama Prabhu and Akka Mahadevi. This movement began in Karnataka in the 12th century. They preached that all human beings were equal and criticized caste inequalities and discrimination against women. They were also against all forms of rituals. In 13th century to 17th century, a number of Bhakti saints began to influence the movement. The Vaishnava saint thrived in Maharashtra. This regional form of traditions was based on worship of Vithala or Vithoba, which is a form of Vishnu. These saints and their followers were called Bharkari, which means a pilgrim in Marathi, because of their annual pilgrimage to the Pandharpur temple. Even today, Bharkaris march from their houses to the temple in groups called Dindi. The saints in Maharashtra wrote inspiring songs in simple Marathi. Jaineshwar, Namdev, Eknath, Tukaram, and Chokhamela were some important Bhakti saints of Maharashtra. The Bhakti saints rejected all ceremonies and rituals and social distances based on birth. They did not favor the idea of renunciation and lived with their families, earning their livelihoods like other people. For them, true bhakti lay in sympathy and kindness towards others, and understanding and sharing their pain. The bhakti saints belonged to different backgrounds. Namdev was a tailor. Chokhamela belonged to the untouchable caste and was even denied entry into the Abhithala temple once. Next topic, Nathpanthi, Siddhas and Yogis. A number of religious groups, Nathpanthi, Siddhas and Yogis that emerged during this period criticize the ritual and other aspects of conventional religion and the social order using simple logical arguments. They advocated renunciation of the world to achieve the salvation. They advocated intense training of the mind and body through practices like yogasanas, breathing exercises, and meditation. It became popular among low castes. Next topic, Islam and Sufism. Islam became an important religion in India from 12th century onwards. It was brought to India by the Arab traders. Later, with the coming of the Turks, the Afghans, and the Mughals, Islam gained popularity in India. Many rulers patronized Islam. Some people adopted it as it was the religion of the rulers. Islam is a monotheistic religion and believes in only one God, Allah. According to Islam, Prophet Muhammad is Allah's only prophet. The Quran is the holy book of the Muslims. Prophet Muhammad united the warring tribes of Arabia. Within 100 years of Prophet Muhammad's death, the Arabs created an empire which included Syria, Palestine, Egypt, parts of North Africa. Prophet Muhammad was born in Mecca. It is thus considered to be the holy city of the Muslims, which they must visit once in their lifetime. This holy visit or pilgrimage is called Hajj. After the death of Prophet Muhammad, Islam split into two sects, the Shias and the Sunnis. Sufism is a movement that arose in the Muslim world. It was influenced by ideas from Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Sufis were Muslim mystics. They rejected outward religiosity and emphasized love and devotion to God and compassion towards all fellow human beings. Islam emphasized monotheism, meaning one God. It rejected idol worship and highlights into collective prayers. Sufis compose poems expressing their feelings and a rich literature in prose, including anecdotes and fables developed around them. They developed elaborate methods of training using zikr, contemplation, sama, rags, discussions of parables, breath control, etc., under the guidance of a master or peer. So, Islam propagated monotheism or submission to one God. It also rejected idol worship. Muslim scholars developed a holy law called Shariat. A large number of Sufis from Central Asia came to India from the 11th centuries onward and settled down here during the period of the Delhi Sultanate. Sufism developed many philosophical ideas and practices like holding of breath and fasting. They created orders of the genealogy of Sufi teachers called silsilas. Ghazali, Rumi, and Sadi was the great Sufis in Central Asia, and in India there were Khwaja Mohyuddin Chishti of Ajmer, Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki of Delhi, Baba Farid of Punjab, Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya of Delhi, and Banda Nawaz Jizu Daraj of Gulbarga. The Sufi master held their assemblies in their khankas or hospices. Devotees of all descriptions, including members of the royalty and nobility and ordinary people, flocked to these khankas. They discussed spiritual matters, sought the blessing of the saints in solving their worldly problems, or simply attended the music and dance sessions. The tomb or dargah of a Sufi saint became a place of pilgrimage to which thousands of people of all faiths thronged. New religious development in North India. From the 13th century onwards, Bhakti movement became popular in North India. The coming of Islam and Sufism in India led to a mingling of different faiths. Both Bhakti and Sufi saints drew inspiration from Hinduism and Islam. They had followers from both faiths. This intermingling of faith created a new tradition of syncretism. The Bhakti movement in North India spread through Ramanand, who was a direct descendant of Ramanuj. Ramananda founded the Ramanandi sect, while Lord Rama was main deity. The early North Indian saint poets of Sant like Sena, Pipa, Raidas, Dhana, and Sadhana were disciples of Ramananda. From Ramananda's techniques emerged the Nirguna school and the Saguna school. Kabir, Ravidas, and others represented the Nirguna school. They believe in a formless and nameless God. Members of the Saguna school included Tulsidas, Surdas, Mirabai, and Chaitanya. The Saguna school believed in gods with forms like Krishna and Rama. Many of these sons came from low caste. For example, Kabir was a weaver, while Ravidas was a cobbler. These sons preached equality of all human beings and said that God was there for everyone regardless of caste or gender differences. Some of them, like Kabir and Nanak, rejected all orthodox religions. Others like Tulsidas and Surdas accepted the prevalent beliefs and practices but wanted them to be made accessible to all. Tulsidas wrote Ramcharitmanas. Ramcharitmanas written in Awadhi, that is language, used in eastern Uttar Pradesh, which describes the story of Lord Rama. It is an expression of his devotion to his Lord. It is also an important literary work. Surdas was a blind poet and musician who was an ardent devotee of Krishna. His compositions are compiled in Sur Sagar, Sur Saravalli, and Sahitya Lahiri. Nirguna Bhakti songs became popular in Hindi speaking regions of Punjab and Rajasthan from the 15th century onwards. Sankaradeva was a famous Bhakti saint of Assam. He was a devotee of Vishnu and wrote poems and plays in Assamese. He also established Ramgarh, which were houses of recitation and prayer. Chaitanya. Chaitanya was a famous saint of Bengal who was a devotee of Krishna. He introduced Kirtan, which is the practice of singing devotional songs in front of large gatherings. He had both Hindu and Muslim followers. These traditions also included saints like Dadu Dayal, Ravidas, and Mirabai. Mirabai was a Rajput princess who married into the royal family of Mewar in the 16th century. She became the disciple of Ravidas, a saint from an untouchable caste. She was devoted to Krishna and composed many popular bhajans expressing her love and devotion for him. Her songs also openly challenged the norms of the upper caste and became popular with the masses in Rajasthan and Gujarat. The Bhakti saint used the language of the common people, and their compositions were also written in these languages. This became highly popular and were passed on from generation to generation orally. Another important point was that this Bhakti saint mixed freely with the masses. All this made them very popular among the common people. We come to know about many of these saints because of oral traditions in the forms of songs and poems they left behind. Historians use this as a source of reconstruct history. But as is common with oral traditions, its accuracy can be disputed. Next topic, Kabir. One of the earliest and most influential Bhakti saints of North India was Kabir. Kabir probably lived during the period between 15th century to 16th century. He is said to be the son of a Brahmin widow who abandoned him at birth. He was then brought up by a family of Muslim weavers who probably lived near Varanasi in present-day Kasi or Benares. Since he was illiterate, he spread his message orally. His techniques were written down much later. Thus, changes may have been made to what he said. Kabir was a disciple of Ramananda. He promoted the Nirguna school, though he called God by different names such as Allah, Ram, Rahim, Hari, and so on. God was one for him. He rejected all major religious traditions. He considers the differences between Hindus and Muslims to be unimportant. He believed that the Hindu and Islamic religious leaders did not understand the essence of religion and misused the authority given to them. He was against caste distinctions, idol worship, going on pilgrimages, taking holy dips in rivers, and other such external forms of worship. He had a huge following among the masses, including both Hindus and Muslims. His followers, known as Kabirpanthis, survive to this day, but they are greatly reduced in number. We get to know about Kabir and his ideas from a vast collection of verses called Sakis, Pads, and Dohas, said to have been composed by him, sung by wandering bhajan singers. Some of these are found in Guru Granth Sahib, Panchbani, and Bijak. The language of his poetry was a form of spoken Hindi that was understood by the common people. Kabir believed in a formless supreme God and preached that the only path to salvation was through bhakti or devotion. Kabir drew his followers from among both Hindus and Muslims. Next, Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak is considered the founder of Sikhism. He was born in 1469 at Talwandi, also called Nankana Sahib, in Pakistan. He traveled widely and visited many places. Later, he settled at Kartarpur and established a town there known as Dera Baba Nanak on river Ravi. He took his last breath there in 1539. Like Kabir, he also believed in one God and preached that true love and devotion were the only ways to gain God's blessings. Guru Nanak believed that caste, creed, and gender were not relevant for the attainment of liberation. He started the practice of langars or common kitchens where all his followers ate together. The sacred space created by Guru Nanak to serve the langars is known as Gurdwara. The essence of Guru Nanak's teaching is right worship, welfare of others, and purity of conduct. His teachings are remembered as Nam Japna, Kirat Karna, and Band Chakna, which means right worship, honest living, and sharing with others. These are the three main principles of Guru Nanak's teachings which influence a large number of people. They were from all castes and primarily consist of traders, artisans, craftsmen, and agriculturists. He wanted his followers to be homely and earn their livelihoods by engaging in useful and productive occupations. After his death, his ideas developed into a new religion called Sikhism, which borrowed ideas from both Hinduism and Islam. Before his death, Guru Nanak appointed Lena as his successor. Lena was one of his followers who was later given the name Guru Angad. He developed the Guru Mukhi script to preserve the teaching of Nanak. He began compiling in the compositions of Guru Nanak in 1604, to which he also added some of his own. He called it the Guru Granth Sahib, also called the Adi Granth, which is the holy book of the Sikhs. It is written in the Guru Mukhi scripts. Guru Angad was succeeded by 8 more Gurus. They were Guru Amar Das, Guru Ram Das, Guru Arjan Dev, Guru Har Gobind, Guru Har Rai, Guru Har Krishan, Guru Tegh Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh. Guru Arjan Dev continued to work on the completion of teaching began by Guru Angad, to which he also added writings of other great sons such as Kabir, Sheikh Farid, and Namdev. His three successors also wrote under the name of Nanak. The ninth Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, and the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, added to the Adi Granth as well. The city of Ramdaspur or Amritsar developed around the Harmandir Sahib Gurdwara, also known as the Golden Temple, by the 17th century. By this time, the Sikh movement had started to get militarized. This was because the Mughals had been persecuting the Sikhs since the time of Jahangir. The Sikh Khalsa Panth was established by Guru Gobind Singh in 1699. Every member of the Khalsa had to have the five symbols with him always. These were Kes means long hair, Kanga means comb, Kara means wristband, and Kachai a pairs of shorts, and Kripan means dagger. So Guru Nanak used the terms Nam, Dan, and Insan for the essence of his teaching, which actually meant right worship, welfare of others, and purity of conduct. His teachings are now remembered as Nam Japna, Krit Karna, and Band Chakna, which also underline the importance of right belief and worship, honest living, and helping others. Thus, Baba Guru Nanak's idea of equality had social and political implications. Next topic, Martin Luther. Many changes were taking place in Europe in the 16th century. Between 1483 to 1546, Martin Luther emerged as a popular leader who brought a major change in Christianity. Luther observed that many of the activities in the Roman Catholic Church were not as what was mentioned in the Bible. He translated the Bible from Latin into the common people's language. Thus, everyone could read for themselves what the Bible said. He was disturbed by the practice of indulgence, which made people pay donations to the church so that they could be forgiven from their sins. The development of the printing press helped Luther's ideas to be widely known. Many of the Protestant Christian sections claim their roots in the teaching spread by Luther. Students, I hope the topic I discussed it has been clear to you.